Welcome to the third installation of Africa in the Bible. And today we're going to continue our journey through the Bible. And our title is From Jerusalem to Africa, Gospel on the Move. We are almost 25 million strong in a Seventh-day Adventist church worldwide. So, take a guess. Where are the largest number of Adventists located? The answer is very simple. Africa. 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 My good friend, renowned missionary and evangelist in Africa, tells me that in Madagascar, after his meetings, 3, 5, and sometimes 10,000 people are accepting Jesus and being baptized. Why is it happening? You know, take, for example, some other part of the world. I'm not going to go about like Western world. But, for example, Nepal, Thailand. Yeah, it's probably the best example probably here comparable, say Thailand. You're not going to get that many people accepting Jesus. But in many countries of Africa, you are going to. Why? You'll be surprised. There is a prophecy about this. So, but before I will make you dive into a prophecy, I'm going to take you to the New Testament, to the book of Acts, chapter 8. And let's read the story that many of you are very, very familiar with, but I've seen so many people do not fully understand this story. So, Acts 8, I'm going to start reading from verse 26. Now an angel of the Lord spoke to Philip, saying, Arise and go toward the south along the road which goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza. Yeah, not the most pleasant place in the world today, but this is how it used to be. Here is Jerusalem, and take a look at this road. You go, even if I were to take the road, I'm going to go this today through the mountains. My route from Tel Aviv from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv, and then start going down this way. And then I keep going, up, keep going, up, keep going. This would take me all the way to Egypt and to the River Nile. Okay? So just for us to understand what's going on. This is desert, so he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, Cush, a eunuch of great authority under Candace, the queen of Ethiopians, who had charge of all her treasury and had come to Jerusalem to worship. Here's the main error which I always hear when I listen to different Christian sermons. Many preachers jump to conclusion that Philip was talking to one of the first Gentiles. This conclusion is wrong. Number one, why in the world is this so-called Gentile came to Jerusalem to worship? Second, let's keep reading. And was returning, and sitting in his chariot, he was reading Isaiah the prophet. I mean, first of all, yes, this man was a finance minister of the kingdom, so we can assume he was a pretty well-to-do man. But second, the item he held in his hand wasn't cheap. It wasn't your printed Bible. You can get the cheapest one, probably pay $10 in the US. The scroll of Isaiah is one of the largest biblical scrolls. I would presume that, and back in those years, they were writing on a sheepskin. So, to write the whole book of Isaiah, they need to, the good leaf, which they stitch together in a scroll, should come from the belly of the sheep, because other pieces of the hide wouldn't work. So he had to you have to have 25 sheep just to make pages, and then cost of writing. So this was a very, very expensive item which he chose to spend his money on. And he was reading it. In which language do you think? Well, I'm still trying to figure out the history of languages in Ethiopia, because again, you have Amharic, that's probably most of the Ethiopians are going to understand today. But back in the old days, they had this language, they called it Ge'ez, and that's the ancient Ethiopic, but there was no Bible in that language in that time. So this so-called Gentile was reading a book of Isaiah in Hebrew. How could he be called the Gentile? No way. Well, he was definitely ethnically Ethiopian, but he wasn't Gentile. Let me show you some pictures. If you go into the heartland of Ethiopia, where Falasha people resided, this is a type of place. This is a synagogue. Yeah, that's the synagogue. Well, as I said, majority of Ethiopian Jews are in Israel, so this is how in Israel a typical Ethiopian synagogue look like. These people are not Gentile. They're not considered Gentile. Okay? They are worshiping the same way as every single Jew worship. They're not Gentile. Okay? They're studying the Bible. This is the early years. This is the pictures from the 60s when the Ethiopian Jews just arrived. So these guys are grandfathers of those whom you're gonna now meet on the streets of Ramat Gan and all these Israeli cities. And that's the old days of Ethiopia. Old pictures, some of the original synagogues. See? Look. So how did this? So Ethiopian eunuch was not a Gentile. He was a Jew. And not probably every Ethiopian you might have met in the first century was of Jewish faith, but the finance minister of the kingdom of Aksum, being a Jew, pretty normal, seemed to be pretty normal. Traveled to Jerusalem for pilgrimage, for a festival. That's why all Philip need to do, think about this. Just think for a moment, because my good friend, whom I'm referring to, everybody knows him here as Vasily, right? So one day I said to Vasily, take me to Madagascar or to Uganda to preach. And he said, Sasha, people won't understand you. Many people whom I preach to don't know how to read and write. Think about this. How in the world would you, if I were to come in the middle of, let's say, Kenya, not in Nairobi, but where Maasai country. So I see, a group of Maasai shepherds come to listen. And I'm going to open Isaiah. Okay, it will be in their language. I'm going to open Isaiah 53. This Maasai, I don't know what they believe. They never met. I'm the first Christian they ever see. I opened the book of Isaiah chapter 53. If you don't remember what it says, I'm going to just show you what it says. You will recall right away. Who believed our report, and to whom was the arm of the Lord had been revealed? For he has grown before him as a tender plant, as a root out of dry ground. He is despised and rejected by man. How much will these people understand anything out of it? Absolutely. If they have no Christian background, if they have not gone there in Africa through a Christian school or an Adventist school, they would have no idea what I'm talking about. You see, this Ethiopian eunuch, he just had a difficulty understanding that part. The rest he was able to read in Hebrew. He says, oh, please explain what this is all about. You see? So the question is, where in the middle of Africa did Jews come from? Ethiopians are very interesting people. They have all kinds of legends. For example, if you go to Ethiopia today, which has quite a large Christian history, and there's an Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and you travel around the Christian areas of Ethiopia, they're going to show you a real Ark of the Covenant. Well, different monasteries there compete. Which of them has the real Ark of the Covenant? But, you know, they like different legends. There's a predominant legend about Ethiopian Jews. Remember the Queen of Sheba? And you're gonna hear a lot about this, that Solomon slept with Queen of Sheba. She gave birth to Solomon's son, and that's where the Ethiopian Jews are coming from. I'm glad you're laughing. I'm very glad you're laughing. These are all fairy tales. But the only way we could biblically explain the presence of Judaism in Africa is this humanitarian mission or trade mission, which was dispatched by King Solomon to Africa, to those regions where they brought the knowledge of a true God. This is why Isaiah dedicates 3 chapters in his book to the African people. I'll show you one of the most bizarre stories. We don't know much of the life of the prophet Isaiah, but smack in the middle of his book, because like if you read Jeremiah, there's lots of personal reflections. In Isaiah, you have his prophecy after prophecy after prophecy after prophecy. It's not an easy book to read because, you know, we tend to find some personal detail, and there's not many. But that one is pretty graphic. In the year that Tartan came to Ashdod, when Sargon, the king of Assyria, sent him, and he fought against Ashdod, at the same time the Lord spoke by Isaiah, the son of Amoz, saying, "Go, remove the sackcloth from your body, and take your sandals off your feet." And he did so, walking naked and barefoot. Then the Lord said, "Just as my servant Isaiah walked naked and barefoot 3 years for a sign and wonder against Egypt and Ethiopia, so the king of Assyria led away Egyptians as prisoners and Ethiopians as captives, young and old, naked and barefoot, with their buttocks uncovered, to the shame of Egypt." Can you imagine everything Isaiah, 66 chapters, 65 out of the 66 chapters of the book of Isaiah is about Israel. The smallest chapter of the book is chapter 20. And it's about Africa. And there is no, you think, oh, he's going to speak something negative, because he always speaks something negative about Babylon, about Philistines, about Assyria. Here, no. He is very concerned with regards to potential invasion of Assyrians into Egypt and their advance down the Nile. And that's not him. It's not him personally. God is concerned. God is concerned about Africa. And that's why for 3 years, I mean, not like completely bare and naked, nude. There's no nudity involved in here, but, walking barefooted with, some kind of undergarment. Basically, it's not about nudity at all. It's about being scorched by sun. Nobody's gonna, play nudity in this region. You're gonna have a horrible sunburns, in the Middle East with, as I say, we have some heritage. Like as Ashkenazic Jew, I've learned 20 years ago that I'm very susceptible to skin cancers. That's markers. So, and Isaiah God makes Isaiah warn Africa for 3 years, walking barefooted and, without proper covering. That's God was extremely concerned and so there's absolutely, when we read and understand what's involved, any kind of thought that God doesn't like Africa is nonsense. Nonsense. The contrary is true. But I'm leading you to a different book, to a different prophecy of Isaiah. To a different prophecy. And this is very, very interesting prophecy. I did teach the book of Isaiah to people in the churches, and it takes us a long time to go through the book because it's 66 chapters, and basically, I got a stick. Basically, it's kind of a pretty deep dive into the Bible text. But there is one thing. This is what I want us to read. In Isaiah, some people hate history, but this is like there's a whole section of the book which is dedicated to the history of ancient world. And Africa is there. So let us read together the best ever prophecy about Africa in Isaiah chapter 18. I have to tell you before I start reading. One of the reasons why I was thinking about this subject, Africa in the Bible, I was thinking about this for many, many, many years. And the main reason is because I encountered this strange group of people. They call themselves Hebrew Israelites. It's a very strange group of people. They have all kinds of myths about who the real Jews are. They're mainly from Haiti, from Jamaica, from Caribbean islands, and they claim to be a true Jews. Well, I'm joking about this because there are Jamaicans. Well, let me tell you the history. There is a history to it, but in fact, Jamaica has the earliest synagogues in North America. And what happened is, in 1492 in Spain, King of Spain expelled all the Jews from Spain. And some of them he converted forcefully to Catholicism. So there was a group of Jews who were so angry at Spanish that they joined the fleet of Sir Francis Drake, the pirates of Caribbean. So there were Jewish pirates of Caribbean. That's something new to you probably. So yes, they just wanted to avenge Spaniards. And what did the pirates of Caribbean were assigned to do by Queen Elizabeth I is to harass and destroy the shipments of gold from South America to Spain. That's what they were doing. So there were Jews among them, and they settled in Port Royal, which was a previous capital of Jamaica. And of course, they needed to have their families. And whom did they have to marry? A very nice, beautiful women which were brutally imported from Africa. So they married them, and to marry them, they needed to convert them to Judaism. And the African women converted to Judaism. And so they gave birth to Jamaicans. So quite a few Jamaicans have Jewish descent. Some of them did not retain Judaism as their religion. Some of them did. So I met some of them. But this is another story. But these guys, the Hebrew Israelites, they claim that the true Jews come from the tribe of Igbo of Nigeria. They have all kinds of stories. So look at the Bible, and you're going to see the true stories for Africa. It's there, if you're a careful reader. So let's read Isaiah 18. Woe to the land shadows with the buzzing wings, which is beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. Okay, let's look. So here is our Nile. We go down, down, down the river. And take a look. As I said, here is Khartoum. Okay, and here is the White Nile. The White Nile starts at the swamps of Bangviola. Okay, all the way down Victoria, Uganda, where the Congo River starts. All these rivers come from there. The two big African rivers come from there. Not Zambezi one, but this one does. But then there is another tributary of here. It's Blue Nile, and it goes. That's what goes through Ethiopia. See, So this is what they're referring to as rivers of Ethiopia. So the land beyond those rivers. So that's the heartland of Africa. That's why he doesn't say Cush. He calls it the land beyond the rivers of Cush. Okay, so we're going deeper. Which sends ambassadors by the sea, even in vessels of reed, on the water, saying, Go swift messengers to all nations, tall and smooth of skin. This is how Bible calls African people, tall and smooth of skin. To people terrible, their beginning onward. Why terrible? Paganism. See, this all these spirit worshippers. So that's, Egypt has its own, structured religion. This one is that's what's referred as terrible. The terrible, but a national powerful treading down, whose land the rivers divide. So you see, it's all the way down. It's Kenya, Uganda, all this. Okay? All inhabitants of the world and dwellers of the earth, when he lifts up the banner on the mountains, you see it, and when he blows a trumpet, you hear it. So, this is the first, this is something, I don't know why the thing is called proclamation against Ethiopia. There's nothing about Ethiopia, and there's nothing against. But what we see here is when God lifts up a banner, the people, and blows the trumpet, the people are going to hear it. They're going to respond. For so the Lord said to me, I will take my rest, and I will look from my dwelling place like clear heat in sunshine, like a cloud of a dew in the heat of harvest. For before the harvest, when the bud is perfect, and the sour grape is ripening in the flower, he will both cut the sprigs with pruning hooks and take away and cut down the branches. They will be left together for the mountain birds of prey and for the beasts of the earth. The birds of prey will summer on them, and the beasts of the earth will winter on them. So he's talking about the harvest. Harvest. In that time, a present will be brought to the Lord of hosts from the people tall and smooth skin. This is how the Bible refers to Africans, tall people and smooth skin. A people terrible from their beginning onward, a nation powerful and treading down, whose land is the rivers divide, to the place of the name of the Lord of hosts, to Mount Zion. This is the prophecy. It has been fulfilled. Because when the banner of the Lord and the trumpet of the Lord was seen and heard in Africa, Africans responded. And they worshiped the Lord. Africans had a terrible religion, but many, even the shamans, abandoned their practices and joined the Lord. This is the prophecy. This is why God was always concerned about this large continent with the vast land, with the different people on it. The eyes of the Lord was on that part of the world. The prophet Isaiah was especially concerned. King Solomon was especially concerned. And the Ethiopian eunuch, who grew up probably in the family which was espousing or adhering to the principles of Judaism, when he heard the good news of Jesus, his Messiah, he said, "What shall I do?" And in that desert, they were able to find some water, and he was baptized. And after this eunuch, millions and millions of Africans brought their tribute to the Lord. The Lord is concerned about Africa in a special way, and the Bible is speaking clearly about this. This just shows his wonderful character and the truthfulness of this word, because what is predicted is being fulfilled now. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, it's so wonderful to see in your book how you are the Lord of our destiny. You control the history, and you reach out to different people. You reach out to people who were captured by the forces of darkness because of all the witchcraft and sorcery and all the spirit worship that is still so predominant in some of the areas of Africa. But, Lord, you show in the light of your gospel to them, and they respond. And so let this be encouragement to all of us to respond when you are calling us to follow you. Amen.